is a president who will help to bring our costs down. One of the things that Hillary wants to fund out of this energy fund is a serious research effort to make available to you in the next couple of years an affordable car that gets 100 miles to the gallon. Now, every time I say this, I lose about half the crowd. People look at me and say, I know he's not as young as he used to be, but I kind of think he's losing it. Poor old Bill, he's living in a dream world. Let me tell you something, folks. There are 50 Americans today driving cars that get 100 miles a gallon in town and 70 miles on the highway. They're like these hybrid vehicles on steroids. You know how a hybrid vehicle works. It runs on a battery at 25 miles an hour and then goes into fuel. These give you 40 more miles every single day of nothing but electricity powered driving. Takes you to 40 miles an hour before it goes into fuel. That means in town, you're getting 100 miles a gallon. I talked to a guy who's averaged 105 miles a gallon for a year now, in town. Now, why do you need research for that? Because we can't give it to you at an affordable price. The battery pack costs 10 grand. We get it down to $2,500, then we can give you all a $2,500 tax credit. You can afford to buy the car. And we'll have a whole new industry figuring out what to do with all the recycled metal when we turn our cars in. But you just think about what 100 miles a gallon would mean to your pocketbook, to your family's budget, to your children's future. Now think about what it would mean to your country. Just think what we could say to all those fellows that sell us oil. It goes something like this. We've been thinking about it. You go on and charge us $100 a barrel. On second thought, charge us $200. You charge whatever you want, because we're going to keep our $350 billion here at home in our families' pocketbooks and our children's future and the jobs of tomorrow. If you want that, you vote for Hillary for president. We can have that kind of future. We can do that. We're the only rich country that has not yet provided affordable health care to everybody. You can't make it affordable unless you give it to everybody, because if you don't give it to everybody and have a rule that says everybody gets covered, the insurance company's going to waste a fortune trying not to cover people. A fortune. Every time you pay health care premiums, you contribute to the $50 billion a year they spend trying not to insure you. Sorry you got a pre-existing condition. Sorry you got a health policy that just doesn't cover what you need right now. $50 billion out the window. There's so many different companies, right? So many different policies. The paperwork is a blizzard. Everybody's trying to keep from paying on time. You spend 30 cents on the dollar of your hard-earned money for paperwork. Is there a business in the entire Somerset County that could stay in operation if they blew 30% of their revenues off the top on paperwork? One. Of course not. Here's our plan. If you like what you got, you can keep it. If you don't, or you don't have it, or you can't afford it anymore, you can buy into the same plan that today insures federal employees and members of Congress and our families. If it's good enough for our family, you pay for it, you ought to have access to it. It will save you a fortune. And here's how. You should do. And the trading system is not always fair. Hillary has proposed rewriting NAFTA, putting labor and environmental standards on our trade deals, a lot of other things to make it better. But the real reason you ought to be far on this issue is she's the only person who told you the whole truth, which is that you cannot get control of the trade problem until we balance the budget again, or at least drastically reduce this deficit. Here's why. You know we've got big trade deficits with, right? In order, China, Japan, Korea, and oil sellers. Every day, because of this deficit, we have to borrow money. The President's economic plan has added $4 trillion to the national debt, put a $30,000 birth tax on every boy and girl born in Pennsylvania this year. Guess who loans us money every day in order? You couldn't make it up. China, Japan, Korea, and the oil sellers. Now do you see why trade enforcement is only one-fifth what it was when I was president? I mean, imagine you walk out of here and you barge down to the local bank and slap the daylights out of the bank president. You reckon you get a loan tomorrow morning? I want you to laugh so you can hear. This is serious. She has told you the truth about this. You can go to her website, HillaryClinton.com, and find out how every last dollar of every program I mentioned in this little talk for her is accounted for. She will take us back to balanced budgets. That's the only way we can have real trade enforcement again. You can't blame these other countries for what we did to ourselves. And she will give these young people in this audience their economic future back by going back to balanced budgets if you will elect her and give us people's lives. And she has spent a lifetime doing it. She's the best I ever saw. Robert Kennedy Jr. introduced me at a deal for Hillary the other night in North Carolina. He said, I'm so tired of people criticizing her, I don't know what to do. He said, let me tell you something. She holds the same seat in the Senate my father did, and she is a worthy successor. And he made a campaign for president 40 years ago, and she is his worthy successor there too. He said, I don't care what the rest of my family does. My dad was in politics to change other people's lives, and that's why she's in it. And if that's what you care about, you ought to be for her. You give her enough votes out here, give her a big vote out of Pennsylvania, she will roar on to Indiana, on to North Carolina, on to West Virginia, on to Kentucky. And with the poll in Kentucky 3 days ago, she was ahead 62 to 26, right? They know her there. They got confidence in her. They know who can deliver the good when the chips are down. You will never have a chance in your life to vote for anybody more devoted to your children, your future, and to making a difference. And you can do it. It's up to you. But I'm telling you, don't you let anybody tell you she can't win. I got a couple of rules of politics I've followed my whole life. 2 of them have been triggered here. When all the elites in Washington said she ought to quit, isn't it terrible we're having a debate? When somebody tells you you ought to quit, rule number 1, it's because they're afraid you won't. When somebody tells you, rule number 2, when somebody tells you you can't win, it's because they're afraid you will. And she will if you help her. Thank you, and God bless you.